My name is Ryan, and I'm 31 years old. About 7 years ago, I learned that the best way to die alone on a dark road is to help the wrong person. It was January 2017. I was driving from Brooklyn to Vermont to meet my best friend John at his cabin for a snowboarding weekend. We had been planning this trip for months. I was excited to get out of the city and spend some time in the mountains. I owned 2 cars back then. A 2013 BMW that I used for getting around the city, and a 2006 Ford F-150 pickup truck that I rarely drove. I chose to take the truck that night because I had all my snowboarding gear in the bed. My skis, my boots, my jacket, everything I needed for a weekend on the slopes. The drive from Brooklyn to Vermont is not short. It takes about 5 hours if you know what you are doing. But I left late that Friday afternoon. By the time I got on I-91 heading north, it was already dark. By the time I was 45 minutes from John's cabin, it was past 1 in the morning. It was pitch black on those roads, and it was snowing. I want you to understand something about roads like that at that hour. There is a specific kind of silence that comes when you are the only car on a mountain road in the middle of winter at 1 in the morning. The snow muffles everything. Your tires make a soft crunching sound. Your engine hums. The windshield wipers go back and forth. That is all you hear. No traffic, no people, no civilization. Just you and the road and the darkness ahead. If you are listening late at night, make sure you stay aware out there. And if you enjoy true horror stories, hit like and subscribe because I want to tell you what happened next. I had just gotten that truck back from the mechanic a few weeks before. It had been giving me problems for a while. The mechanic said he fixed it, but I was not convinced. That night, he was proven right. That night, on one of the darkest roads in Vermont, my engine started to overheat. It happened suddenly. One moment, everything was fine. The next moment, the temperature gauge on my dashboard started climbing. The needle climbed higher and higher. It went into the yellow. Then it went into the red. The engine was screaming. I could hear it in the sound it was making. I could feel it in the way the truck was running. I knew I had to pull over. So I did. I pulled onto the shoulder and put the truck in park. I turned off the engine and I waited. The snow was falling hard now. The flakes were big and wet, and they were sticking to my windshield. I sat there for maybe 5 minutes, just listening to the engine tick and cool. The road was completely empty. There were no headlights in either direction. There were no other cars. There was nobody else out here. Just me and the darkness and the snow. After about 10 minutes, I decided to try driving again. Maybe the truck had just needed a break. Maybe the engine would be fine now. So I got back on the road. I drove slowly at first. Very slowly. Maybe 30 miles per hour. But within a few minutes, the temperature gauge started climbing again. The needle went right back into the red. I had to pull over again. This time I pulled over and I turned the truck off completely. I sat there in the cab with the heat running, trying to stay warm. I had my hazard lights flashing. I was stranded. I was stuck on a dark road in the middle of a snowstorm with an overheating engine and no cell service. My phone showed 0 bars for T-Mobile. 0. I could not call anyone. I could not call John. I could not call for help. I was completely alone. I sat there for what felt like forever, but was probably only about 10 minutes when I saw headlights approaching from behind me. Finally, someone was coming. Someone else was on this road. I immediately turned on my interior lights and opened my door and started waving my arms. The car was slowing down. The driver had seen me. It was a little Toyota, an older model. The driver rolled down his window. He seemed like a local. He looked like he belonged out here in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of winter. I thanked him profusely for stopping. I asked him if I could use his phone. I explained that mine had no service and that my truck was overheating and I needed to call for help. He asked me what had happened to my truck. I told him about the engine overheating. He was sympathetic. He handed me his phone without hesitation. He must have been a local because he had full bars. I was relieved. I called John first. He picked up immediately. I could tell I had woken him up, but he did not seem bothered. I explained the situation. He told me to call a specific towing company that he knew. He said they operated out of the area and they would be able to help me. He told me to give them my exact location and he said he would come pick me up from the tow yard. So I called the towing company next. I gave them my location. I described my truck. I told them about the overheating issue. They said they would send someone out right away. They estimated about 30 minutes. I handed the phone back to the man in the Toyota. I thanked him again. He just nodded. He did not say anything else. He just rolled up his window and drove away. His tail lights disappeared down the dark road ahead, and I was alone again. I got back into my truck to stay warm. The heat was running and the cab was at least comfortable, but the isolation was getting to me. I was stuck on a dark road. I was in the middle of nowhere. If something happened to me, nobody would know where I was. John knew I was coming to the cabin, but he did not know I had broken down. I had not told him where I was exactly. This road was not on any major highway. It was not on any popular route. It was just a back road that people used when they knew where they were going. I turned my headlights off for a second just to see how dark it really was. And I have to tell you, I could not see an inch in front of my face. It was absolute blackness. Complete darkness. The kind of darkness that makes you understand why people fear the dark. There was nothing out there. Just black void. I turned my lights back on. I needed them on. I could not sit in that blackness. I had maybe 20 minutes left to wait. So I played some games on my phone to pass the time. Stupid mobile games. Just something to distract myself from the cold and the isolation and the creeping feeling that something was wrong. That is when I heard it. A bang on my window. It was sudden. It was loud. I jumped. My heart was in my throat. I looked to my right and there was someone there. Someone standing outside my truck in the dark, at my passenger side window. I could not see him clearly. It was too dark. My headlights did not light up the sides of my truck very well. I could only make out a shape, a dark shape, a man in a big black coat. The hood was up over his head. He was banging on my window. I heard his voice. He was begging. He was screaming. He was yelling at me to open the door. He was saying he was freezing. He was saying he needed help. He was trying to open the door, but it was locked. I felt my entire body go cold. This was not the tow truck driver. This was not anyone I knew. This was a stranger in the dark, a stranger who had appeared at my window in the middle of the night. I shined my phone flashlight at the window to try and see who he was, but the light did not help much. All I could see was the outline of him, the big black coat, the hood covering his face. I could not see his features. I could not see his face. He kept yelling. He kept saying he was lost. He was stranded. He needed to get out of the cold. He was begging me to open the door. I did not open the door. Instead, I yelled back. I asked him what was wrong. What did he need? The man outside told me he was lost and stranded, and he needed to get inside where it was warm. I told him I could not help him. I told him to wait for the tow truck that was coming, but he did not accept that. He did not accept no as an answer. He started getting more aggressive. He started pounding harder on the window. He was really hitting it now. Hard, violent. He was screaming for me to open the door. He was yelling that he needed help. He said he was going to freeze to death out there. I was terrified. My instinct was screaming at me to get away. My gut was telling me that something was very wrong here. This man was not lost. This was not a genuine cry for help. Something about this felt like a trap. I did the only thing I could think of. I put the truck in drive. I started to accelerate. When he realized I was leaving, he started pounding even harder on the window. He was hitting it with all his strength now. The glass was shaking. I thought he was going to break through. I was hitting 30 miles per hour now, and he was still hitting my window. Then I came over a small hill in the road, and I saw something that made my blood run ice cold. In my rear view mirror, I saw tail lights, red tail lights. I saw the reflection of a car parked on the side of the road. It was that same Toyota, the car that had stopped to help me, the car whose owner had lent me his phone. That car was now parked just behind where I had been stopped. That man who was banging on my window was not lost. He was not stranded. He was connected to the driver of that car. This was a setup. This was a trap. They had stopped to help me. The driver had lent me his phone, and then he had dropped off his partner to try and force his way into my truck. I floored the accelerator. My truck was already damaged from the overheating engine. I did not care anymore. I was not going to babysit this engine. I was going to drive as fast as I could away from this place. The truck screamed. The engine roared. I was going 45 miles per hour now on a snow-covered road, but I was getting away. I checked my mirror. The man was no longer at my window. He was standing on the side of the road watching me drive away. The Toyota had not started moving yet, but I knew it would soon. I drove faster. I drove recklessly. But I was not going to stop. I was not going to slow down. I was going to get out of here. A few minutes later, I saw headlights approaching from the opposite direction. I was so relieved I almost cried. It was the tow truck. It was finally the tow truck. I flashed my lights. The driver saw me. He pulled to the side. I pulled over right in front of him. The tow truck driver got out of his cab. I got out of my truck. I was shaking. I was terrified. I told him everything that had just happened. I told him about the man in the black coat. I told him about the Toyota. I told him that I thought they were trying to rob me or worse. The tow truck driver did not look surprised. He looked serious. He asked me if the man had a gun. I told him I could not see. I told him it was too dark. I could not see anything except the outline of him. The driver looked at me and he said something I will never forget. He said, "Well, then we better do this quick." He started attaching my truck to his tow truck. He worked fast, very fast. He kept looking around. He kept checking the dark. I stood next to him the whole time. I was looking too. I was watching the road behind us. I was waiting for that Toyota to come back. It took him about 15 minutes to get my truck completely attached. During that whole time, the Toyota never came. The car did not pass us. The man did not reappear. It was possible that when they saw the tow truck, they decided to turn around and go the other way. It was possible that they realized their trap had failed. I called John again from the tow truck driver's phone. I told him I had broken down, but I was being towed. I told him I would meet him at the body shop instead of the cabin. He agreed. He said he would pick me up from there. The tow truck driver drove me to a body shop in a nearby town. It took about 30 minutes. The whole drive I was looking in the mirror. I was looking to see if that Toyota was following us. It never showed up. John picked me up from the body shop. I told him everything. He listened. He did not judge. He just listened. The next day, he took me back to get my truck. The mechanic at the shop found the problem. It was a broken water pump, a simple repair. They replaced it and the truck ran fine. But I sold that truck a few weeks later. I did not want it anymore. I could not drive it without thinking about that night. I never went back to that road. I have not driven those back roads in Vermont since. And I have certainly never stopped to help anyone stranded on a dark road at night again. Because that night I learned something important. I learned that some people prey on kindness. They use it against you. They set traps. And they are waiting for someone like me. Someone who wants to help. Someone who still believes in the good in people. That night I was lucky. The tow truck came when it did. If it had been 15 minutes later, if I had stopped the truck to help that man, if I had lowered my window, if I had opened that door, nobody knows what would have happened. Nobody would have ever found me. I would have just disappeared on some dark road in the middle of Vermont. Another missing person, another cold case, another unsolved mystery. But I did not. I listened to my gut. I drove away. I survived. Still, sometimes when I am driving late at night, I think about that moment. I think about the sound of him banging on my window. I think about how close I came to making a different choice. And I think about all the other people out there who might not be so lucky, all the people who might stop to help, all the people who might open that door. Stay safe out there. Trust your gut, and never ever stop to help a stranger on a dark road late at night. Because sometimes when someone asks for help, what they are really asking for is access, and access is all they need.